The skies roiled with demonic aura, and the earth cracked open. Yet that slender figure stood quietly ahead, untouched by the enormous tides. When he spoke in a slightly hoarse voice, he turned around and approached the nearby Ling Qingzhu, who tilted her head slightly. He looked at the blood stains on her light gauze robe. Her eyebrows still showed the familiar coolness, different from Huan's icy demeanor. Ling Qingzhu's chilliness held an innate pride, perhaps the reason for her excellence. Ling Qingzhu sensed the presence of the young man beside her. His usually calm eyes, unaffected even in the face of life and death, now seemed slightly disturbed. She clenched her jade-like hands, striving to control her emotions, resisting the urge to look at the man who now shone like a fierce eagle. This scenario was entirely different from the horrors of 3 years ago. Her mind was slightly chaotic when the young man before her seemed to bend down and lifted her in his arms. The sudden lift made Ling Qingzhu's mind go blank for a moment, but she quickly came to her senses and started to struggle fiercely. "Don't move." A slightly deep voice reached her ears, causing Ling Qingzhu's delicate body to stiffen. She finally looked up, and a face much more mature and determined than 3 years ago came into view. He frowned slightly, his aura sharp and commanding. Even Ling Qingzhu was momentarily dazed. The 3 years seemed to have washed away his charm, slowly revealing what was hidden deep within. Ling Qingzhu bit her silver teeth lightly. Her struggle weakened due to her injuries, but her tightly clenched hands revealed the turmoil in her heart. Brother Lin Dong? Su Rou and several disciples of the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace stared blankly at the young man carrying Ling Qingzhu. After a while, realization dawned upon Su Rou, and an uncontrollable joy surged across her face. "Brother Lin Dong, it really is you. You're back in the Eastern Mystery region? I knew you would return." Lin Dong stopped in front of Su Rou, smiled at her delighted face, unable to resist the grin. The once timid and weak girl had matured. "Well done." Lin Dong gently put Ling Qingzhu down, then ruffled Su Rou's hair with a smile. Her cheeks flushed, but the familiar gesture filled her with warmth, as if all her exhaustion vanished. Ahem. Ling Qingzhu coughed lightly, a hint of red appearing under the gauze, indicating the prior attack from Feng was not light. "Sister Qingzhu, are you okay?" Su Rou was startled, and the disciples of the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace quickly gathered around, full of concern. Ling Qingzhu shook her head slightly, glancing at the blood-stained brothers around her. "Stay vigilant, the strong enemy remains." Hearing this, they quickly sobered from their initial joy, their expressions growing serious. The Yuan sect army still eyed them like tigers, and even Ling Qingzhu had been defeated by their elder. They had lost their final strength. What happens next? Leave it to us from the Dao sect. You take care of her. Lin Dong glanced at Ling Qingzhu. Her gaze had returned to the usual coolness, but avoided meeting his eyes. Whenever their eyes met, she immediately looked away. "Brother Lin Dong, be careful. The elder of the Yuan sect is very strong," Su Rou said, biting her lip. Although reason told her Lin Dong should make way, her blind trust in him changed her words. "Dao sect friends, thank you for your assistance today. On behalf of the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace, Qingzhu expresses gratitude. However, if you cannot repel the enemy, please withdraw first. Even if we are destroyed, we will never compromise with the Yuan sect." Ling Qingzhu's beautiful eyes lowered, her voice soft. Su Rou, hearing this, stuck out her tongue, daring not to speak. She had a close relationship with Ling Qingzhu and was vaguely aware of some inexplicable bond between the two. Su Rou found it truly amazing. Ling Qingzhu had always been aloof and composed, with a remarkably cultivated mind. Over the years, countless geniuses in the Eastern Mystery region had admired her, yet none had managed to progress beyond their admiration. Sometimes even Su Rou thought there might not be a man on earth who could make her sister, as serene as an immortal, behave like an ordinary girl. Therefore, when she saw this side of Ling Qingzhu, she was deeply shaken. However, she was somewhat puzzled. If Qingzhu had a connection with Lin Dong, why did she now seem so distant and aloof, almost as if they were strangers? Despite her confusion, the high regard in which Ling Qingzhu was held in the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace Even Su Ro dared not ask her directly. What friend of the Dao sect? Don't you know my name? Lin Dong raised an eyebrow at Ling Qingzhu's tone, a flicker of anger in his dark eyes. Was this woman deliberately provoking him? Ling Qingzhu remained silent, not looking up. Seeing her like this, Lin Dong snorted angrily and turned to leave. Ling Qingzhu's jade-like hand clenched tightly, biting her lip under the veil, yet stubbornly saying nothing. Yet, as Lin Dong took 2 steps away, he suddenly spun around. A gust of wind aimed directly at Ling Qingzhu's face, shocking the onlookers from the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace. His manner seemed almost as if he was lashing out in anger. Sensing the oncoming gust, Ling Qingzhu's delicate body trembled slightly, and she closed her eyes without moving. Swoosh! The gust brushed past her cheek, and she suddenly felt a coolness as the veil was forcibly removed. With the veil gone, her near-perfect, stunningly beautiful face was exposed to the air, brightening the whole atmosphere. You! The chill on her cheek startled Ling Qingzhu, and she quickly opened her eyes, touching her jade-like cheek. Staring blankly at the veil in Lin Dong's hand, a flush of shame and anger colored her usually pale, composed face. The fleeting expression of allure left everyone around. The disciples of the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace, male and female alike, in a daze. She had always been cool and composed within the palace walls, rarely revealing such a captivating, down-to-earth side. Much better now. Pretending to be an immortal in front of me doesn't work. Lin Dong briefly lost himself in the breathtaking beauty of her face, then teased as he noticed the rising color in her cheeks. Like I care what you like. Ling Qingzhu retorted angrily. Yet, despite her anger, her captivating demeanor remained intact. Huh? Lin Dong laughed loudly. Yet his dark eyes quickly turned cold and determined. He slowly turned his head, his gaze sweeping over the lurking Yuan sect powerhouses in the distance. He said calmly, I'll handle what's next. Ling Qingzhu watched his slender back. The forcible removal of her veil seemed to have disturbed her emotions significantly. She bit her lip, holding back her shame and anger at his earlier actions. Regardless, Lin Dong's appearance at such a crucial time really caused ripples in her otherwise placid heart. The complexity of their relationship even gave her a headache. Both their personalities made it impossible to simply forget the absurd incident from years ago. No matter what, they held a unique place in each other's hearts. Even the proud Ling Qingzhu had to admit that if it had been another man who pulled her veil, she might have already struck with her sword. But with Lin Dong, his normally infuriating actions only provoked annoyance at his assertiveness and recklessness. Ling Qingzhu's nature was undoubtedly proud and aloof. This was evident from their first encounter many years ago. At that time, she was a celestial figure in the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace, whereas Lin Dong was just a member of a minor branch of a modest dynasty. They were worlds apart in status and power. On that mountain peak years ago, Ling Qingzhu intended to eliminate the one who stained her innocence with a sword. Yet, the bright and intense gaze of the young man before her stayed her hand. She realized then that beneath his seemingly fragile exterior lay an unmatched tenacity and perseverance. She also knew just how much effort he had to put in to reach this point. So, for that day, the boy, still like a young wolf, began to sprint down the thorn-covered path. Despite being battered and bruised, there wasn't a hint of regret. Yet, perhaps she never imagined that, years later, the once frail boy would stand before her, shielding her from storms too powerful even for her to withstand, with a back that wasn't particularly broad. Emotions surged within her, distant memories echoed in Ling Qingzhu's mind. A hint of softness appeared in her clear eyes as she softly whispered, "Be careful." Under the anxious gazes of countless disciples from the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace and the cold stares from the Yuan sect strongmen, Lin Dong stepped forward. Finally, he stopped on the fractured earth, looked up at Feng with a grin filled with endless killing intent. "Who are you? How dare you meddle in the Yuan sect's affairs?" Feng glared at Lin Dong, speaking indifferently. "I'm here to deal with you Yuan sect dogs," Lin Dong replied with a smile and a shake of his head. A cold gleam appeared in Feng's eyes. He was about to speak, but several Yuan sect elders arrived at his side, saying, "Great elder, this seems to be Lin Dong from the Dao sect." "Oh." Slightly surprised, Lu Feng assessed Lin Dong, then mocked, "I wondered who it was. Turns out it's the stray dog we chased out of the Eastern Mystery region. What's this? Back after 3 years in hiding?" "I said back then, I'd destroy your Yuan sect," Lin Dong retorted with a smile. "You alone?" Lu Feng sneered. "Are those 3 old dogs still alive?" Lin Dong's smile faded as he gazed coldly at Lu Feng. "Punk, are you seeking death?" A Yuan sect elder shouted furiously, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. The next moment, his figure surged forth, a mighty fist infused with primordial energy, tearing through the sky towards Lin Dong. A punch powerful enough to shatter mountains struck Lin Dong's palm. As those around expected a shockwave, they were stunned to find Lin Dong unmoved. His hand easily engulfed the Yuan sect elder's fist, swallowing the ferocious attack as if it were a bottomless pit. "What?" The shock was clear on the Yuan sect elder's face, unease rising. As he tried to retreat, Lin Dong's chilly gaze finally settled on him. Swish. Lin Dong took a half-step forward, his hand piercing through space, landing atop the elder's head. A flash in his dark eyes, an explosion of force followed. Boom. The elder's body swelled and burst into a mist of blood. A flicker of dark light passed through, with a piercing scream cut short. Lin Dong's hand grasped through the black mist, mercilessly crushing the essence spirit. In mere moments, a revolution stage powerhouse was completely obliterated with brutal efficiency. Lin Dong's methods far surpassed even Ling Qingzhu's capabilities. The disciples of the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace watching the confrontation were wide-eyed with shock, staring at Lin Dong's lean figure as if at a ghost. Ling Qingzhu's prowess came from the palace master's legacy, yet Lin Dong, missing for 3 years, returned this formidable? "Big brother Lin Dong is so strong," Su Ro exclaimed, holding onto Ling Qingzhu's delicate arm, excitement on her face. Ling Qingzhu's eyes were complex as she gazed at the back of the man who casually annihilated a powerful revolution stage enemy. With a sigh, she thought, after so many years, he finally surpassed her. But achieving such heights in just 3 years, what kind of rigorous training and trials did this guy endure? Ling Qingzhu seemed to smile slightly, and her fleeting smile left Su Ro beside her utterly captivated. "Anyone else want to come?" Lin Dong clapped his hands with a smile, and then looked toward the sky at the elders of the Yuan sect, saying, "Those 3 old dogs didn't show up?" Lu Feng's gaze was dark as he stared at Lin Dong. The cold sneer in his eyes gradually faded away. To be able to ruthlessly deal with a super strong practitioner who had entered the revolution stage was something even he found difficult to do. Clearly, this person before him was no longer the Dao sect disciple who had once been driven to desperation by the Yuan sect. "It seems you've indeed grown a lot stronger over these 3 years. But to think you can destroy the Yuan sect with just this is a bit naive," Lu Feng said with a sinister expression. "I know you beasts have aligned with the alien demons, but that's fine. Be it the Yuan sect or the alien demons, I'll thoroughly clean them up," Lin Dong said with a faint smile. "You know about the alien demons?" Lu Feng's pupil shrank as he spoke. The Yuan sect's sudden rise in power is nothing more than the alien demons' covert assistance. Otherwise, who are you dreaming of conquering the Eastern Mystery region? Lin Dong scoffed, shaking his head. He stared at Lu Feng and said, "Even you. Your body is teeming with demonic aura. It seems the corruption has been going on for a while. Your Yuan sect is truly a bunch of scum to collude with the alien demons. Brat, we cannot allow you to live." Great primordial sky slash. Lu Feng's eyes flickered with a dark light as immense killing intent spread. Towering demonic aura combined with primordial energy surged behind him like an ocean. His palm sliced forward, transforming the demonic aura into a blade glow thousands of feet long, slashing angrily downward. Once Lu Feng moved, he displayed a power far exceeding that of the other elders, shocking the Nine Heavens Taiqing Palace disciples standing in the back. Their hearts were all in suspense. The blade glow descended rapidly, cleaving through space. However, Lin Dong's expression remained indifferent. As the blade glow was about to strike, a massive black hole appeared out of thin air above him. Swoosh! The blade glow slashed into the black hole, emitting a faint muffled sound, and then was silenced. The black hole rotated and vanished without a trace, everything appearing so eerily. What? Lu Feng was slightly surprised, then fixed his gaze on Lin Dong, his voice sinister as he spoke. Is that the power of devouring? You actually possess the devouring ancestral talisman? Lin Dong gave a faint smile. He slowly extended his hand, aiming it at Lu Feng, then clenched it suddenly. Whoosh! At the moment Lin Dong clenched his hand, Lu Feng's expression changed, and his figure swiftly transformed into shadows, retreating rapidly. Yet, as his figure withdrew, the surrounding space twisted, with 4 black hole vortices forming around him. The erupting power of devouring tore the encased space into pieces. Boom! The black holes spun violently, and within them, a muffled groan echoed. However, an incredible burst of primordial energy soon surged, forcefully breaking through the prison formed by the black hole vortices. Lu Feng stumbled out, though slightly disadvantaged by Lin Dong's black hole technique learned from the devouring master. He was not easily defeated. You truly possess the devouring ancestral talisman. At this moment, Lu Feng was finally certain that the unique power of devouring was unparalleled, unmatched by anything else in the world. Lin Dong smiled, but he did not deny it. No longer did he need to cautiously hide the secret of carrying an ancestral talisman. His formidable strength now allowed him to protect himself. But so what if you have it? Do you think I'll fear you? Lu Feng's face was now severely twisted. His eyes were aglow with sinister black light, his entire demeanor vicious and malevolent. He stepped forward fiercely, as demonic aura behind him coalesced into a monstrous shadow several thousand feet tall. Heavenly Yuan Demon Fist. A low roar came from Lu Feng's throat. At this moment, he had evidently pushed his power to its limit. Facing Lin Dong, he felt a deep sense of danger. Lu Feng's form retreated, blending into the massive shadow. The shadow's blurred face shot out 2 beams of blood-red light. Its giant fist swung down, carrying a terrifying force as if capable of destroying everything, as it struck fiercely toward Lin Dong below. Boom boom. Even before the attack landed, the terrifying fist winds twisted the space. Lin Dong raised his head, his eyes reflecting the enormous demon fist hurtling towards him. Slowly, he extended his right arm, which began to flicker with black light and lightning, and incredibly, it started to liquefy. Black glints and arcs danced across the surface, where 2 ancient runes could faintly be seen floating within the liquid. Previously, Lin Dong could only liquefy his fingers using the power of 2 ancestral talismans. But now, with his increased strength, his entire arm transformed this way, greatly enhancing its destructive power. It's time to settle my grudge with the Yuan sect, starting with you, you old dog. Boom. With a fierce stomp, Lin Dong's figure transformed into a glowing streak, charging directly at the massive demon fist without the slightest hesitation, braced to confront Lu Feng head-on. The disciples of the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace gasped at this clash, covering their mouths in shock. Even Su Ro's face showed a hint of worry. Only Ling Qingzhu remained composed, though her hand involuntarily tightened. Whoosh! 2 dazzling lights shot across the sky and collided in an explosive impact under countless watchful eyes. At that moment, it seemed as if heaven and earth were trembling. An indescribable energy shockwave rippled outward swiftly, warping the very space around it. All eyes were glued to the epicenter of the explosion, where the disciples clutched their hands, palms sweaty. Ling Qingzhu's eyes focused intently on the sky. Suddenly her gaze sharpened as a radiant beam surged upward, shattering the massive demon fist under its force. Whoosh! The radiant beam sliced through, shattering the fist, twisting space, and hurtling toward the towering demonic silhouette in the sky. Roar! The demon noticed the incoming beam and roared angrily, amassing a vast demonic aura in front of it, forming an enormous shield brimming with malevolent energy. Yet, Despite this formidable defense, the beam did not slow. In an instant, Lin Dong appeared before the shield. His arm, transformed into a liquid-like black lightning, drove forward like a sword, viciously smashing into the demon's barrier. Boom! A deep sound echoed across the sky as countless streaks of black lightning poured from Lin Dong's arm, relentlessly bombarding the shield. Is this all you've got, Lin Dong? You think this is enough to avenge yourself on the 3 sect masters of the Yuan sect? Don't overestimate yourself. The demon howled skyward, Lu Feng's mocking laughter booming across the air. You might be celebrating too soon. Lin Dong stared coldly at the roaring demon. His liquid-like hand abruptly clenched, revealing 2 ancient runes that slowly intertwined, unleashing dazzling black lightning from his arm. Bang! Withdrawing his arm briefly, Lin Dong then punched forward again with immense force, shattering the demonic shield in an instant. Crack! This time, the enormous defense failed completely, and Lin Dong's liquid arm pierced through it, tearing it apart. Lu Feng was finally speechless, shock lacing his voice. Despite exerting all his efforts, his defense was no match for Lin Dong. Whoosh! Lin Dong gave Lu Feng no chance to recover. Swiftly closing in on the now vulnerable demon, he unleashed a punch that sent a cascade of liquid-like black lightning spewing from his fist like a meteor. It pierced through the giant demonic silhouette with devastating force. Demonic aura dispersed frantically from the dissolving form, revealing Lu Feng once more to everyone's view. An ominous bloodstain marred his chest, and his previously sinister complexion had turned deathly pale, his cold eyes full of shock. Lu Feng stared, pale and shaken, at Lin Dong, now visible in the sky. He could not comprehend how he had been so utterly defeated despite his full strength. Lu Feng murmured to himself, knowing he was someone who had touched the reincarnation stage. It was exceedingly difficult for anyone who wasn't a pinnacle power of that level to defeat him. However, in this battle which hadn't lasted long, he had already been comprehensively defeated. How could he possibly accept this? Brother Lin Dong won. Behind him, Su Ro and the others couldn't help but cry out in delight as they witnessed this scene. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. They had personally witnessed Lu Feng's strength before, even seeing their own palace master of the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace defeated by him. Yet unexpectedly, even such a formidable opponent was no match for Lin Dong. It seemed that the crisis their 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace faced today could finally be resolved. Beside them, Huan, who had been clutching her jade-like hand tightly, slowly released it. Her palm was slightly damp. Are you all right, Great Elder? 3 figures swiftly approached Lu Feng from the Yuan sect's ranks. Observing his injuries, their eyes were full of shock, and they hurriedly asked. Gritting his teeth, Lu Feng shook his head and then waved his hand forcefully, shouting, All disciples of the Yuan sect, heed my command, and wash the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace in blood. You 3, block this lad with me. Lu Feng glanced at the remaining 3 Yuan sect elders beside him. Having suffered earlier, he clearly dared not face Lin Dong alone now. Yes. Upon hearing this, countless disciples of the Yuan sect let out a unanimous roar, their eyes filled with evil, black light, and then, overflowing with killing intent, they surged towards the disciples of the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace like a tide once again. As Yuan sect renewed their assault towards her side, a cold chill flashed across Huan's face. Just as she was about to take action, Lin Dong, from afar in the sky, let out a faint smile. With a gentle wave of his hand, his indifferent voice slowly resonated through the skies. Yuan sect members, corrupted by demonic aura, eliminate them all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As Lin Dong's voice faded, there was suddenly a rapid whooshing sound from afar. Several figures abruptly appeared above the disciples of the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace. A bunch of wretches, colluding with the alien demon, truly deserving of death. As those figures appeared, a majestic aura swept outwards. With a flick of their sleeves, vast primordial energy transformed into curtains of light, shielding all the 9 Heavens Taiqing Palace disciples within. What a powerful presence! Are these people all from the Dao sect? Su Ro murmured, shocked as she gazed at the sudden appearance of these individuals in the sky. She could sense that each of these auras was no weaker than their palace master. Some of them are unfamiliar, probably not powerhouses from the Eastern Mystery region. Perhaps they are strong allies Lin Dong brought back, Huan speculated, knitting her brows slightly before shaking her head. Strong allies brother Lin Dong brought back? Su Ro was taken aback. These top-tier powerhouses would be significant figures anywhere. Brother Lin Dong actually managed to invite them here? Shua shua. The newcomers were indeed Little Mink, Elder Zhuli, and others who had followed Lin Dong. Upon appearing, they swept their gaze over the Yuan sect disciples. Immediately, their vast primordial energy surged, and a single strike sent the Yuan sect disciples tumbling, unable to advance a single step further. Feng and the others were finally faced with a drastic change in expression as they witnessed this. Their gaze fell on the formidable individuals behind Lin Dong, their eyes filled with deep fear. Great Elder, Lin Dong has brought so many strong fighters. One of the Yuan sect elders exclaimed in shock, sensing a strong sense of danger from those individuals. What should we do now? Another elder quickly asked. With Lin Dong and the others' arrival, they had lost all advantage. Feng's expression shifted rapidly, and then he gritted his teeth fiercely. Retreat. Lin Dong, just wait. When the 3 sect masters of the Yuan sect emerge, your Dao sect will be doomed. Feng shouted angrily, then turned on his heel and retreated, not even bothering with the Yuan sect disciples. Since you came, why leave in such haste? Lin Dong said with a faint smile as he looked at Feng and his men preparing to retreat. Yet, Feng paid no heed, decisively turning away. However, just as they reached less than 1,000 yards, they abruptly felt the world grow cold. Snowflakes began to drift down from the sky, enveloping the entire area. Not good. Feng's expression changed as he hurriedly lifted his gaze. Before them, atop a distant mountain, sat a slender figure lazily perched on a green pine. Her icy blue hair cascaded down, and her icy blue eyes contained a chill colder than the snowflakes themselves. Feng and his companions were top experts of the Yuan sect. Over the past year, during their clashes with the Dao sect, they had heard of this formidable figure who had emerged out of nowhere. Instantly, they recognized him. On the pine tree, Huan glanced at them with her beautiful eyes, then slowly stood up, stepping into the air. Ice lotuses formed beneath her feet, and with a graceful motion of her slender fingers, she cast a spell. Ice wall. Snowflakes frantically condensed and formed 4 towering ice walls around Feng and his group, sealing off all their escape routes. Bang! Bang! The 4, witnessing the situation, hurriedly unleashed their attacks, yet they still failed to shatter the ice walls. Lin Dong's figure flashed, appearing above the ice walls. He looked down at the 4 trapped inside, his expression indifferent. With a grasp of his hand, a miniature stone monument appeared, the great wilderness monument he had refined. Don't worry. Soon, those 3 old dogs will join you. Lin Dong spoke calmly. With a wave of his hand, the great wilderness monument roared forth, expanding dramatically in the wind until it reached a colossal size of several thousand feet. Beneath the monument, endless ancient waves emanated, and under their pressure, the demonic aura within Feng's group began retreating and dissipating at an astonishing speed. Boom! The enormous stone monument crashed, and the entire space creaked under the strain. Sect Master, save us! As the monument descended, fear finally rose in Feng's eyes, and he roared desperately. Bang! At that very moment, the sky suddenly twisted violently. A giant silver hand reached out from the space, punching through the layers of ice walls and attempting to grab Feng and his companions. Can't hold back anymore, old dog of the Yuan sect. When the silver hand appeared, a sharp gleam flashed in Lin Dong's eyes. His cold voice echoed through the sky. The silver hand pierced through space, shattering the ice walls, and reached directly for Feng's group, clearly intending to rescue them before Lin Dong could finish them off. Lin Dong stood in the void, his black eyes coldly watching the silver hand. With a thought, the great wilderness monument surged again, changing direction to suppress the silver hand. Humph! A cold snort seemed to come from the broken space when Lin Dong acted. The silver hand turned to meet the great wilderness monument's oncoming force, and the two clashed heavily. Boom! The mighty collision shattered the space, and the violent energy waves swept through. Feng and his companions, closest to the impact, couldn't help but spit out blood. Buzz! The great wilderness monument trembled vigorously, emitting waves of ancient power. Yet, the silver hand was equally terrifying, withstanding the monument's suppression. Though it shivered continually, it never relinquished its hold on the great wilderness monument. Ice Phoenix Demon Suppressing Lock. While Lin Dong was entangled with the silver hand, a cold voice echoed nearby. Ice and snow gathered, forming 10 massive ice phoenixes. They howled, circling the silver hand. The phoenix tails transformed into huge icy chains, tightly binding the silver hand. Chilling cold emanated from the chains, and dense white mist rose from the silver hand as layers of ice spread across it. This astonishing cold lowered the power of the silver hand significantly, giving the great wilderness monument the chance to suppress it. Swish! Just as the silver hand was forced into a disadvantage by the combined efforts of Lin Dong and Huan, it suddenly shone with intense silver light. As the space twisted, the silver hand vanished abruptly. Boom! The great wilderness monument descended, landing on nothing as the ground below collapsed. Lin Dong furrowed his brows, puzzled by the silver hand's bizarre disappearance. Not only was it mysterious, but he also couldn't sense how it disappeared. In the distance, Elder Julie and others watched closely. As the silver hand vanished, they also frowned, a hint of gravity in their eyes. Watch out! As Lin Dong frowned, Huan's urgent warning reached his ears. Just as the ice wall took shape, the space suddenly tore open, and a silver hand viciously smashed it with a single punch. However, in that brief moment, Lin Dong quickly regained his composure, swiftly retreating to dodge the eerie attack. The silver hand's strike landed on empty air and, without engaging further, flickered again and vanished mysteriously. Witnessing this bizarre scene, Lin Dong's eyes narrowed slightly. In that instant, he sensed a peculiar force emanating. What happened? Huan appeared beside Lin Dong, her delicate figure moving gracefully as she looked on, puzzled. The silver hand was too elusive. Lin Dong shook his head slightly, his gaze flickering. Then, with a cold smile, he said, "Let's see how long you can stay sneaky. Huan, I'll deal with those guys. Keep an eye on our surroundings." The enigmatic nature of the silver hand meant Lin Dong needed to force it into the open. With that, Lin Dong transformed into a streak of light, charging fiercely at Feng and his group of 4. The formidable killing intent surged into the sky. Startled by Lin Dong's grim demeanor, Feng and the others retreated hurriedly. But Lin Dong didn't give them much chance to fight back. With a turn of his palm, a gentle white light spread, enveloping the 4. Under this gentle illumination, Feng and his group were horrified to feel their demonic aura gradually dissipating. Especially Feng, already injured, found his situation worsening as his face turned even paler. Humph! Without showing any leniency, Lin Dong waved his sleeve, and the great wilderness monument swept forth once more. Ancient light gathered at the base, vast and mighty. The monument cast a shadow over Feng and the others, but just as it was about to fall, the space nearby twisted again. Here it comes again? As soon as he saw the distortion, Lin Dong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Then he leapt forward, appearing directly above the great wilderness monument. Brilliant purple-gold light erupted from within him, with countless dragon patterns whirling around him. The pure dragon might permeated the heavens and earth. Roar! With the sound of a dragon's roar echoing, 3,000 purple-gold dragon patterns rose, forming an enormous dragon claw thousands of feet long. The claw tore through space and, with a flash of purple gold in Lin Dong's eyes, it struck the mysterious silver hand with full force. Boom! The violent clash exploded in the sky, the thunderous sound rumbling far and wide. audible even from 100 miles away. This time, the silver hand was finally forced to retreat, its glowing silver light dimming slightly. Clearly, it suffered a setback against Lin Dong's prepared attack. Yuan sect's 3 old dogs. Which one might you be? Lin Dong grinned, his eyes fixed on the silver hand as he said slowly, Do you really think I'm the same as 3 years ago? Trying to save someone from me without showing your true form. Indeed, you're a troublesome one. I predicted you'd be a problem back then, and it seems I was right. A faint voice came from the flickering silver hand. Since you don't dare show yourself, let me destroy this thing. With a chilly gleam in his eyes, Lin Dong lunged forward, hurling the purple-gold dragon claw at the silver hand in anger. As Lin Dong engaged the silver hand, Huan swiftly appeared before Lu Feng and the others. Her delicate hand twitched, transforming the surrounding snow into icy chains. These chains, sharp as a viper's fang, pierced through the forest swiftly. Crack! The icy chains penetrated their bodies, layers of ice rapidly spreading across their surfaces. Before they could resist, the ice encapsulated them entirely, with an ancient rune flickering atop the icy surface, sealing them inside. Huan displayed a remarkable connection with Lin Dong. As he devoted his full power to dealing with whichever of the Yuan sect's hidden leaders was present, she decisively captured Lu Feng and his group, preventing the elusive silver hand from rescuing them. Swoosh! From afar, Elder Julie, Little Mink, and others swiftly approached, their expressions grave as they watched the battle between Lin Dong and the silver hand. To transmit force over such a distance and contend with Lin Dong, the figure in the shadows was evidently formidable, possibly at the reincarnation stage. The purple-gold dragon claw and the silver hand clashed fiercely in the sky, each collision stirring up violent gusts and echoing blasts that spread far and wide. I've said it before, Yuan sect's old dog. If you want to deal with me, show up in person. Such tricks are simply laughable. Lin Dong sneered coldly as he gradually discerned the patterns of the silver hand through several more exchanges. His taunt met with silence, as the attacks of the silver hand grew even more aggressive. Stubborn old dog. With a piercing glint in his eyes, Lin Dong decided to hold nothing back. In a flash, he appeared above the silver hand. His palms swirled and struck down fiercely. Crackle. Black shadows and lightning spread from his palms like a spider web, enveloping the silver hand in an instant. The powers of devouring and raging lightning surged together, utterly annihilating the peculiar force concealed within the hand. Break! With a fierce stomp, Lin Dong shattered the silver hand into countless fragments of light, which then scattered and disappeared. As the silver hand crumbled, the space ahead twisted, revealing a faint, seated silhouette. Though Lin Dong couldn't clearly see the figure, he knew it must be one of the 3 leaders of the Yuan sect. Lin Dong, it seems you have some skills today. The stray dog of the past is now indeed impressive. You seek revenge against the trio, don't you? Haha. Then come to the Yuan sect. We, the 3 giants of Yuan sect, await your arrival. If you wish to destroy us, let's see if you have what it takes. The space distorted and quickly dissipated, the mysterious silhouette vanishing without a trace or ripple of energy. Lin Dong's eyes remained cold, watching as the figure disappeared into the distorted space. His hands slowly clenched, a fierce killing intent flickering in his dark eyes. Did you feel it? Huan appeared beside Lin Dong, glancing at the twisted space where the figure vanished. She suddenly spoke. Lin Dong nodded slightly, responding calmly, I felt it. That guy was using the power of an ancestral talisman. The Yuan sect likely holds one of the ancestral talismans. Huan frowned slightly and said softly, If I'm not mistaken, the ancestral talisman they possess is probably the most elusive of the 8 great ancestral talismans. The space ancestral talisman? The space ancestral talisman? Lin Dong murmured to himself. It seemed the Yuan sect had truly hidden deep over the years.